James is having cream of cauliflower soup and some mozzarella and rice crackers with some water. And we're going to talk about psycho-cybernetics a little bit. And then we'll see where it goes. So, go ahead, James. You can talk about this book. I'll hold it up so people can see.
So, the guy who kind of like co-wrote it, it's more like...
He just did the introduction and stuff.
The follow-up.
Yeah, commentary.
Yeah. He was already a very successful wrestler.
Yeah.
He didn't see himself as that because he hadn't reached the pinnacle of wrestling.
Well, and I can see how this would be very useful for people who do sports, because like you told me before, it's people have found that if you visualize training, then it's just as good as the training hours or something like that.
I've
right?
heard almost as good.
Yeah,
in here they say as good.
Yeah.
I'm a little skeptical about as good because I've actually read real reports where they say almost as good if you sit and visualize and stuff like that.
Because really, you don't want to be overtraining.
No.
That's a concern too. You know,
well,
if
you can kind of overtrain with visualization, but continue your thought effect.
Especially when you get a bit older, you know, like James was. There's a lot of hikes we'd love to do. We'd love to be hiking every day on the big long ones and just keep going and going and going. But you actually need to rest. And once you get older, the time period that you need to rest in between the hikes is a little bit longer. So you have to go along with what your body tells you. So you can't just be running up the mountains having fun every day. You have to take some days where you're not too. So
well, sometimes you can depend on what your body tells you. Because sometimes guys especially are bad at kind of reading their feedback cycle.
Yeah.
They're taught to kind of fight through stuff.
Yeah, but it's better not to. It's better to, you know, like some people will say, push yourself maybe a little bit harder than you're comfortable with or whatever. But I don't even think that. I think, like in the book, that would be Maxwell Maltz is talking about how if you really want to do well with something, you have to make sure that you're really excited about learning that thing. You're really motivated. Otherwise, you won't do well, right? You have to be excited about what you're trying to accomplish. And I believe that that's true, because there's no way that somebody could have convinced me. I was so poor at gym that in high school I took Gym 10T, which was it was the class where the morbidly obese people and stuff like that, the ones that didn't want to do gym at all, did gym. And honestly, I think there should just be some other program that's not at all like gym. You have health studies or something like that. That would help those people who are morbidly obese much more than learning social dance or whatever. Anyway, but that's my opinion. But anyway, I was very interested in health.
Walking, creative walking, which walking's the best exercise.
Sure.
Especially for someone who's overweight. You know, when I see someone who's jogging around, they're overweight.
Yeah.
Not good for the
But
knees.
really, I think most of it, the reason why I didn't want to take gym is I didn't like gym teachers. I had learned over the years that I couldn't stand them. So I didn't want anything to do with anything that was like gym because of those awful teachers. So really, the people who are teaching the gym 10T sort of thing shouldn't be gym teachers, because that's probably why the students are opting for that. And I had to take it twice. The first time, I don't know if it was my friend and I, we went canoeing, and we were told don't go up the creek, only stay in the reservoir. We went up the creek because we were teenagers, and it was wonderful. We really enjoyed it. That was the first gym class, I think, in my life that I enjoyed gym. And so my friend and I, we were just canoeing, and we lost track of time. And we got back, and the teacher was crying because she thought we were dead.
A gym teacher crying?
She was, yeah. I still feel bad about that.
That seems kind of weird.
Yeah.
Maybe not as bad as the run of the mill.
Well, she knew something about psychology because I took a psychology class later on in high school because our high school was big. We had a lot of different classes that were, so this was like the first year college or university psychology that was offered in our high school, which was cool. So I took that and quickly realized that I didn't want to study psychology. So that was helpful. But anyway, so she was the teacher for that. So I think she must have had some sort of psychology training, right?
Yeah, sometimes, like the worst player I ever played with. Well, stupidest.
But anyway, I failed gym that year, and I think probably disobeying and went up the creek and all that, that probably factored into why I failed that year and had to retake Gym 10T. I don't know if anybody in the history of gym has ever had to retake Gym 10T, but I did. So anyway, having said that, I am now very active hiking with somebody who was very active in sports in university and stuff and whatever. And he's more like my sister that way. She was very sporty and I was not. So anyway, but here I am. We hike together and we have a lot of fun together, whatever. But I don't know where I was going with that. When I started, I'm sure I knew.
Well, that's important. Pretty well everything. So you were mentioning this woman taught psychology.
Yeah.
As well as gym.
Yeah, and that's probably where I was going because they were talking about psychology in this book. But I don't.
The worst player I ever played with, aside from the really violent ones, and usually I was playing against them, because usually the teams I played with were relatively simple. The worst team was the Croatian team in the industrial game. It's like the worst game I ever played was against the Croatian team, and I was with a friend that were kind of like pickup players. First game we ever played, there was a team that had fallen apart in the middle of the season, so they still had games on the schedule that they didn't play.
Yeah, you just keep talking. Lots of time. Keep talking.
My friend, who was not really heavily athletic, he liked athletics. One player, and I'm going to mention his name, Malik. Drago Malik. Drago I think means deer. Moloch means little, if I'm not mistaken.
I guess it's dinner time, and I could smell that there was food burning, and I was worried that it was from, that I'd accidentally left the soup on and it was burning. That's all. That's what I went in to check.
Okay.
I'm back to holding the bar.
As I was mentioning, the guy's name was Moloch. Drago Moloch. It's deer, little. Moloch was a misnomer, was huge, looked like a tank. Overweight too, but not just tall. And the real misnomer was Drago deer. He was a brute. And he sprained my friend's ankle. And I think in that hit he was crying like a cross between a stuck pig and baby on the end of a Japanese World War II soldier on the end of his bayonet or something. Anyway, it was like we were fighting World War II all over again. And of course the Croatians were on the wrong side of World War II. They were on the German side. Pretty nasty. Not all that way, but too many of them are.
How's the cream of cauliflower? Soup.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. Now, so that's a player I played against. The worst player I played with was ended up being the soccer coach here at the University of Lethbridge. And, he's the kind of guy who's so overweight. Did weight training too, and so his strength to weight ratio is really, really bad. And, here's a quote from him. The man I'm adding, but the rest is him in the Lethbridge Herald. They were saying, oh, you were being praised by a coach up in Calgary. Of course, praise for opposition players. At any rate, the Herald guy didn't realize that, but what did he know about sports? And this guy I played with didn't know that. What would he know about sports? He ended up getting a degree in kinese or whatever they called it back then, physics. And he said, I can stay with anyone, man. I'm adding the man, but I know that was understood. He didn't say it. I can stay with anyone. And as I thought, as soon as I read that, dude, I wish I'd been a fly on the wall and could speak there during that interview, because I would have said, chirped up, you couldn't stay with anyone, even if you're fat buttocks. Or you couldn't even stay with your own shadow, even if your fat buttocks was sitting on it. That's how bad he was. And that's what made him so bad as a player. He didn't understand how ineffectual he was. He did believe in laying on the body. I know one guy, nice guy, nice guy, but he was telling me that this coach emphasized laying on the body of people. And I guess if you don't have the skills and you don't have the fitness, what else is there left for you to do? But yeah, he couldn't stay with anyone, so it was hard for him to even lay on the body. Anyway, he ended up teaching, I believe, history or something like that, or probably social studies, maybe at a grade 5 or 6 level.
But that's the problem that both of us have with this book, is that if you have an aggressive personality, it's not a good thing for society as a whole, and really not for you. I mean, you might end up making more money or whatever, but it's not good for you to be more confident in yourself, because you need more mirror moments, really, if you're an aggressive personality type. If you're a passive personality type, you have mirror moments aplenty, and somehow you're seeing yourself in a fun house with the fun house mirrors, and you're not seeing yourself as well as in a good way. You're not seeing yourself as you really are. You're too negative about yourself. So yeah, you should be more confident, and every passive person should try to steer their thought patterns into a positive direction, really.
I'm glad you brought this back to Psycho-cybernetics, because he's a classic example of the sort of person that this stuff would be, well, not wasted on. I mean, it would actually be a negative. He already had a hugely overinflated opinion of himself. He's muscle bound and overweight, fat butt. Not really fat, but he just he was a negative on the team.
And these guys are like pro-aggression, really.
Mm-hmm.
They're Maxwell Maltz was saying in this,
aggression, not assertiveness.
Aggression. So this was written at the time when people weren't writing code for it, so it's actual aggression in here. It's not assertive. If you get a newer copy, maybe in the future, they will have changed that to assertive. But every passive person that has any sense whatsoever, they hear assertive and they're like, aggressive. And we just keep quiet about it for the most part, but not me.
Yeah.
I'm talking about it very openly, because somebody needs to. So
we have too many aggressive people.
Maxwell Maltz was saying in this, well, aggression is a good thing as long as, and I'm paraphrasing here, so you'll want to read the book to see what he actually says. So he's saying aggression's a good thing. It just shouldn't be misdirected, right? So there's times when James and I have been grumpy with each other, and usually it's me being grumpy, but it can be both of us. If we're in the car and
if my back is acting up,
he can be very grumpy.
Well,
but
it's not because of Pauline, really,
no.
initially. It's because of
You guys out there, almost
bad drivers.
100% of you are speeding. You're not signaling. You're tailgating. It's usually those three all at the same time.
Yeah.
You guys are useless.
Incredible.
You guys are killers on the road.
Used to think, well, how is it that I've never gotten a speeding ticket? Because I have sped. I used to think, why, oh why do other people get speeding tickets? I hear about people getting speeding tickets, and James and I have never gotten one. Not a single speeding ticket in our lives. And I was telling somebody about, I haven't had a speeding ticket, a parking ticket, no tickets whatsoever. I was telling somebody about it, and they were like, wow, if that were the case with me, I'd be putting that on every resume I wrote or whatever.
Yeah.
And I just thought, wow, how do people get speeding tickets and I don't? Well, because they're that much worse at driving. I've realized it. Is
they're really speeding.
They're really, really bad. They're doing it all the time, and that's why eventually they get caught. Like me, I have sped occasionally, but I go, oh my gosh, I'm speeding. Oh no, I'm gonna get a ticket. Oh no, no, no. And I go into this worry spin, right? Because I'm really, really great at worrying. So now that I have directed my worrying, thanks to my angels, into a more positive direction. And that comes from late night prayers. And for the most part, I don't think it's stuff like this. I think, I do meditation. I do, I guess people call it forest bathing, but I just go out on hikes in nature. I love it. And I garden. So this time of year I have my seedlings that I'm caring for, and it makes me feel wonderful. I go see them every day, especially in the morning. I wake up first thing in the morning, I go look at my seedlings, and they've grown a little bit, And sometimes I can't tell, but week by week I can certainly tell, right? So it's nice to see that they're growing, and it makes me feel happy. So these things put me in a more positive direction, and I end up doing things that I'm good at, and sometimes I get down, but for the most part I think I've been pretty good. What do you think?
That was wonderful. You've been awesome.
Okay, there you go.
Painting and progress, and turned out some good canvases. Hard to speak.
I haven't done a lot of art for a while, but anyway, in this, James was going to talk about how to actually start from ground zero. Because if you're trying to do this and you're sitting back and visualizing, what I ended up doing is flying up trails. So I do the self-guided hypnosis that he suggests in this, and I'd be visualizing myself looking happy and successful, and that would be me reading a poem or singing a poem that I've written out on a trail, and that was all of my happiest moments that I was thinking of were those, right? And so then afterwards I thought, why not fill myself? I've emptied myself, and I'm just like laying there like a hollow skin or whatever, and why not fill up that skin with a rainbow of positive energy, right? Of like love. Fill myself up with God's love, and for love for myself and whatever. And so then I filled myself up so much that I floated, and then I just floated on up the trails. And so I was thinking that's kind of funny. That's how I ended up doing this self-hypnosis stuff. But I know that I can't fly. So, and no matter how much I try to do this, I won't be flying up the trails. I'll be hiking like I do, right? And it'll be fun, and I'll be reading more poems that I write or whatever out in nature, and it'll be fun. But this won't take me anywhere new. As far as I can see it, I can't see that it would be possible. And
anywhere new really worth going, unless you're almost there.
Yeah, maybe if you're almost there. like training or whatever. You go just a little bit, and then you're like, okay, I can see how this would work, and then you try that or whatever. Yeah.
You relax. He does kind of talk about being kind to yourself, but he doesn't talk enough about what you've got to do to actually improve. You know, like in a short while, I'm going to be reviewed Tao Te Jing, or Tao Te Zing, or Tao Te King, or the Tao Te Ching. I prefer that. But nowadays, I think they prefer the Mandarin pronunciation.
Do you want more crackers and cheese? Okay, I'll get more.
The whole idea seems to be, oh, just go with the flow. Don't, you know, like, life is movement. So just go with the flow, and you'll go somewhere. But then it keeps talking about everything as a reaction to an action. So you got to go with the flow. Eventually you realize, even though the two philosophers that translated this into English, it has the original understanding, and then it's translated in English, and then there's explanation, purport, whatever, commentaries, that's what they call it. And what they're really enthused about is the movement that we're talking about. Water seems to be a metaphor that's used in the, and they pointed out, used in the Tao Te Ching again and again and again. So it's supposed to be Lao Tzu, which means the old master. So it didn't exist. He did. Anyway, eventually he was just given the title, the old master. What the heck? Anyway, he might have been compiling things and so on and so forth, but that's just it. Anyway, what they're talking about is whirlpool. Not a bad one. It's a person kind of with it. I'm not going to go around doing stuff recommended in this book, dated to maybe 300, 200 BC somewhere. But you're just going around in a circle, and that's really not movement. You actually want to improve, and these guys don't. You've actually got to kind of go. It's the flow, maybe, every so occasion. Anyway, you got to kind of forgive yourself. You got to be kind to yourself and stuff like that. They kind of talk about that, but you got to be ready for a real course of it. You know, like one of the most inspirational people I've seen was a little old fat kind of guy. Not particularly good looking or anything like that. This is around 1980, 81 when I was playing for in the Alberta Major Soccer League with the Lethbridge entrant in that, called the Lethbridge Royals. And we'd see this guy trudging. He wasn't even jogging. He was going slower than walking, and he really didn't lift up his legs or whatever, but he was kind of leaned forward. And for some reason or another, he took his shirt off. Oftentimes it was hot.
Well, that's probably why he was.
And of course, he'd have a lot of insulation with the weight he was carrying. And you could see he was as shy as whatever. And some of the Royals, particularly the younger ones, we had ones that 15-year-olds that practiced with us that we called the junior Royals. The better ones are the junior Royals. We didn't practice with the junior Royals, but 2 or 3 of them would practice with us, and then they'd travel with us. I think one of them actually was good enough to make the team. Eventually he was scouted by the Olympic, Canadian Olympic side. But they were laughing at him. Not necessarily this guy. This guy was a pretty nice guy. They were kind of sniggering. No, it wasn't just one particular game. And I wish I'd spoken up and told them, but I always tried to get along with teammates. You know, like, just lay off of the guy. I don't know if he heard them, but what the heck? I can remember seeing that guy. Years later, he is still doing it. And he was thin. He had loose skin over his belt, as he was old when he started, not really old, but older when he started doing that. Guy, you recognize yourself? 2 thumbs up. I wish I were like an Indian god and could put all my thumbs up.
I remember.
You're an inspiration.
I remember why you reminded me of what I was trying to say. My point was I didn't like doing anything sort of sport-like, and I didn't see a point to doing things like exercise room sort of stuff. But hiking, I love. And I could hike if my body would let me. I would be doing it every day. If the weather was great and I could be out there, I'd be, like if we lived in California or something like that and had access to some sort of hiking trail in California and could get out every day onto it, we would, right? If our bodies could handle it. So it's just finding something that really excites you, some activity that really excites you, and you will do it. And so he talks about that in here, you know, for but I found with writing poetry, I find that really exciting. And so I'll look up things, like recently I've been looking up some things about American history for poems, and for the second book that I'm working on right now. And I'm finding it exciting, whereas I never would have before. I don't find history exciting for the most part, and yeah, but since it connects with this poetry thing, then every time I look something up and I'm like, and it's kind of like a mystery too, I'm trying to find something from a story. I'm trying to find something in history that would have inspired somebody writing a story back at around that time. And so it's I'm finding it exciting. And so I'm looking up this history stuff, which I normally would find, oh, it's so horrible, I never want to read it. And I'm finding it exciting somehow. So if you can find some way to find something exciting, then it will be easier to learn it.
Yeah. So you better find something. You either get excited about something or find something to be excited about.
Yeah.
If you're bored about life, I don't know if you're going to last that long.
Mm-hmm. So you have 1:18.
I'm going to mention in this context, I'm going to deal with this in more detail, but
certainly.
Wayne Gretzky, if you read a biography of him that deals with his earlier life in detail, you'll find out he had the huge benefit of a father who had kind of been on the edge of the NHL, when Fairfield played in the NHL, a goaltender. He knew what drove goaltenders crazy. He didn't teach his son how to be a goaltender. He taught his son to be the guy who
would drive him really crazy.
Most drove goaltenders crazy.
Yeah.
Okay? And the thing about Gretzky, I don't know when he started skating, maybe age 3, I'm not sure, forgotten about that detail. But it would be, he'd be skating before school. And then he'd be, this is back when they had snow back in southern Ontario. And he'd go out, and I think he scraped, his dad made a really good outdoor rink for him, but Wayne would get out there and scrape off the snow off the rink, if there was some, and he'd get out there before school. Then he'd hurry back from school, and up until nightfall, probably later. He just